he was going to play today.
Boy, it's Scherzer again. The thumb. I haven't seen anything today on that.
He had the hand down.
There was some weird stuff going
and
on.
He mouthed
there.
the words like "I'm done," or I think that's enough.
I'm done. Thumb.
Yeah, I was concerned about that.
Anyway, we'll see. But listen, you win today. You're a game back of the Yankees.
Yeah.
With 2 more to go in this series. Here's our TSN hockey insider, Darren Dreger. Dregs, what'd you make it today?
Good. It was what it was, right? And I know that's cliche to put it that way, but when you had everything that went into Florida retaining their 3 top guys, some of the other deals that were signed internally for teams to keep their players, I think we were, had to reset our expectation of what this day would be all about. And I think that some teams made the best of it, and others are still very much in the shopping mode. But that's kind of the way this day can go, especially when you're looking at a different CBA and some of the things that general managers and the players and the player agents had to respond to in a real quick period of time.
Dregs, do you think, with free agency not being, the crazy day that we saw or we wanted, does that shift focus more to the trade market then? I think we hung up on it.
Oh, we lost Dregs.
Did we lose Dregs?
I was concerned that he was joking a bit.
I thought that was the concern there.
But
basically, don't know what's going on with Dregs?
Thought process, anyways. The market may have reset on a lot of players, but I believe, you look at a team like Edmonton, you look at a team like the Toronto Maple Leafs looking for top 6. If top 6 aren't there traditionally to sign, now you're looking at the trade market. So that's kind of where I was going with Dregs.
Yeah. We have Dregs? There he is.
Yeah.
All right? Okay.
No. I heard something about trade market, and then I heard nothing.
Yes.
Okay.
That's where we're going. Is that obviously the next step? We mentioned the Leafs, the Oilers. The Oilers have got to do something. They just lost players today.
You're right, because, you don't have to have an educated eye to look at the remaining unrestricted free agents, and there'll be some bargain shopping that happens in the days ahead and throughout the summer, but not to the pieces that certain teams need. You're right. I think Toronto was hopeful, but they weren't expecting that they'd get a crack at Brad Marchand. I don't think that Brock Besser was a good fit in Toronto, but they still had to nibble there to see. I'm sure that Brad Treliving has thrown his hat in the ring on Nikolai Ehlers. I don't think that Nikolai Ehlers wants to play in Toronto. I think he wants to literally stay out of the spotlight. He found it bright at times in Winnipeg, so Toronto is a completely different beast. So how do you acquire that top 6 forward that Toronto is in the market for? And it's going to have to be via trade. And I'd love to be able to sit here, guys, and tell you, okay, they're targeting this player or that player. Can't do it. And that could also be because teams don't know yet who is entirely available. And then you shift over to the Oilers, and you're right. But what's obvious with the work that Stan Bowman has done is that they're opening themselves up for all possibilities. And maybe there is some free agent work that can still be done for Bowman. Mangiapane, I think, was on their radar. I was driving, so correct me. I don't think he's signed anywhere.
No.
Beyond that, then I think you don't have a choice. You've got to look at what is available to you in trade. Brian Rust's name has been attached to the Edmonton Oilers, mostly in media speculation. So at least Stan Bowman has some wiggle room. But now the pressure's on Bowman, too, isn't it? You look at what Bill Zito and the Florida Panthers did in basically bringing their lineup back. Sure, they lost some pieces, but the significant core of the Panthers is there, and the Florida Panthers were way better than the Oilers in Game 5 and in Game 6. That's just the reality of the situation. Throw Zach Hyman into the equation, maybe it's a little bit different. So again, unless there's just this magic top 6 forward that pops loose into the market that we're unaware of, Edmonton's got a bit of a problem here. For me, they do. And then look, they've got Bouchard signed. The Draisaitl money is on the books, so they prepared for that by clearing out some of this money. But that doesn't make them better. It just makes them compliant. And then they're looking over their shoulder again, and there's the Florida Panthers. So I can only imagine what Connor McDavid and company are thinking at this point, but that can change.
Hey, Drake, so many players obviously decided to stay with their incumbent teams this year. And, I guess that makes sense in the case of Florida. Marner was the exception in Toronto. But makes sense of what happened with Brock Besser here. Hayes was just saying that was his biggest surprise of the day, that you see Brock Besser hit free agency, and surprise, he's back with the Canucks.
Yeah, honestly, I think that Adam Foote, the new coach of the Vancouver Canucks, had a lot to do with that. I feel like that group feels pretty good about themselves, but they're not done yet either, right? You look up the middle of the Filipino is a big story because he's healthy. If he can stay healthy, then maybe he covers off their number 2 spot. But I think that Patrick Galvin is going to continue to look. But Brock Besser saw enough that it wasn't worth him exploring beyond the Vancouver Canucks. And he had, as of this morning, at least 10 teams with a variety of different, formats and contracts, especially term and money, that he had to peruse. And that includes the Winnipeg Jets. Winnipeg saw Brock Besser as being as good a fit as they could find in replacing Nikolai Ehlers. And it didn't take long once the market opened at noon for Brock Besser and the Vancouver Canucks to come together on that 7-year term. So a bit of a head scratcher, but more from Besser's perspective, I think, based on some of the other options that were available to him.
With Darren Dreger, our TSN Hockey Insider, I guess we could be into offer sheet season, technically.
Love it.
Yeah. Are we bracing for any? Where do we stand on that?
Well, I mean, it I guess more or less actively happened with Keandre Miller going to the Carolina Hurricanes, because that offer sheet threat was real, right? So Chris Drury and the New York Rangers wisely said, all right, well, let's just figure out compensation. Let's make a deal, and we'll do the sign and trade. And it got a bit more complicated, which is why we didn't spend a whole lot of time reporting on it during our live coverage on TSN. I was told that the league didn't intervene. They had to iron out some of the wrinkles that can go along with a transaction like this, because it's layered, right? And so they had to get through that, and the agent Ian Pulver had to negotiate fully, I guess, what that sign would look like, and it's 8 years with a big number going to Carolina, but the threat of the offer sheet was there. What we don't know is whether or not somebody is going to sign off on an offer sheet for Bo Byram and the Buffalo Sabres. And we talked about this early in the day, and again, when you're on live TV, you don't have a whole lot of time to explain it, and I'm not going to take a ton of time here. But so I think that the agent here, Darren Ferris, who represents Sam Bennett and Mitch Marner, made it pretty clear, and has made it abundantly clear to Kevin Adams, well, they haven't requested a trade. Byram's 2 years away from unrestricted free agency. He has arm rights. So I think the message has been pretty clear. You're never going to get better value on the trade front for Byram in Buffalo than you are right now. So take advantage of it. And it hasn't happened to this point. And my understanding is there is a team or teams that are interested in offer sheeting on Bo Byram. And, if you come in around the $7 million mark, I think, what is the exact number, $7,020,000 or something, compensation is a first and a third. And that seems to be the sweet spot for any team that's going to want to sign Byram to an offer sheet. Not saying that's happening, but no different than the threat of Keandre Miller and the Rangers getting offer sheeted. That's some of the pressure I think that's being applied in Buffalo.
All right, Dregs. Well, we appreciate you doing this. I know it's been a busy time, busy day. We got the off season now, so best of luck with that. We'll do it again soon.
Well, hold on. Where's O? I was expecting a question or two from the dog. And, he's just sitting silent right now, or what?
Well, yeah. I mean, him and Bob McKenzie. I think he's thinking about pulling the chute. Like he's saying, Bob's going to retire, which he did, which was incredible. Maybe O's thinking I need to be doing the same thing. I don't know.
A long
day. He's going to pull that Jimmy Rutherford card from way back in the day when he scored 41 or whatever it was. Jimmy calls O, hey, where are you? You're missing your exit interview, your end of season. Jimmy, you and I both know I scored 41. I'll see you in September.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing to the brass. J-Mac is getting that call right now as the dog is headed north.
That's exactly what it was, and that's exactly what's happening as we currently speak. So, anyway, we'll let dogs lie. Is that what they say?
Yeah, there you go.
Sleeping dogs lie.
Sleeping dogs lie. That's it. Thanks, Dregs. Appreciate it.
Okay, boys. Have a great summer.
There's Darren Dreger, a TSN Hockey Insider. Again, the Jays winning this afternoon. George Springer, 3 for 4, 2 home runs, 7 RBI. His most RBI in a game ever, man. The guy's been in the league forever. He won a World Series MVP.
The big night.
Grand Slam, and what was that, the 6th inning, I believe?
Yeah, 7.
We've been working all day, but that's a big win, man. Like they're a game, they can tie the Yankees with a win tomorrow.
That's how you build momentum, man. You got a packed house, Canada Day, afternoon game, Yankees in town.
Domes
you crush
open.
them.
Yep, exactly. And now, Tampa and the Jays are a game back in the Yankees. And all of a sudden, New York is like they had Fried on the mound today. Rodon yesterday. Like those are their two guys.
Big boys.
Those are the big boys.
Yeah.
So the Jays are in a position now where you should be thinking sweep. You're halfway home to a sweep here. You could punt the New York Yankees from your city, chasing you in the standings.
And question themselves. Like they got holes. They got holes in their pitching staff. They got holes in their batting lineup. Judge can't carry him. Like he was hitting 400 for the early part of the season, but he can't do it all year.
Yeah. Yep.
And there's just too much pressure on that guy to carry the team.
Absolutely. Sounds like